So, you've probably spent a lot of times thinking about early retirement, the numbers, the plan, the freedom, but have you ever stopped to wonder what really happens to your mind once you get there? Let's dive into that because it's about so much more than just money. Yeah, we all paint this picture in our heads, right? Total freedom. No more deadlines, no more stress. It's the dream. But the reality? Well, the reality for a lot of people is a major psychological shift, one that most of us just aren't prepared for. It's a journey from a life that's all structured out to one that's completely and sometimes, well, overwhelmingly open. All right, before we get into the heart of it, just a quick but important note. This is all for educational purposes. It's definitely not financial advice. Okay, so let's pull back the curtain on this dream. We're going to unpack that unexpected psychological shift that can happen when the daily grind just stops. It's a pretty simple question, but it's a huge one. I mean, think about it. Your 9 to 5, for better or worse, takes up so much of your time and your mental energy. So when that whole structure suddenly disappears, what actually rushes in to fill that void? To answer that, we first have to understand what that void is made of. We need to identify the invisible pillars that your career builds into your life, often without you even noticing. And this is where it gets really interesting, because these pillars are fundamental. First, work gives you structure, a reason to get out of bed. Second, it becomes a huge part of your identity. It's how you introduce yourself. Third, it gives you a sense of purpose, a feeling that you're contributing. And finally, and this one is so important, it gives you a built-in social connection. I mean, just think about it. For years, maybe you were Sarah, the senior project manager, or John, the engineer. It's this neat little label that tells the world and tells you who you are. And then, one day, you're not. You're just Sarah. Or John. So, who are you now? That transition can be really jarring, leaving a big question mark where a confident title used to be. This quote just hits the nail on the head. We are kind of wired to be working toward something. So when you finally reach that big career goal, a new and maybe even tougher question pops up. What are you working toward now? Now, this isn't meant to sound scary. Far from it. It just means that this next chapter of your life needs just as much intentional design as your financial plan did. So let's talk about designing your post-FIRE life. And for anyone new to that term, FIRE just means financial independence, retire early. We're going to look at a blueprint for making that future genuinely fulfilling. So here it is, a pretty straightforward 4-step framework. It's not about just kicking back and waiting for happiness to show up. It's about actively building it. You've got to design your lifestyle, create new routines, really nurture your social circles, and most importantly, redefine your purpose on your own terms. So what does designing your lifestyle even look like? Well, it just means you consciously choose how to fill your time with things that actually light you up. Maybe that's diving deep into hobbies, traveling, learning a new language, volunteering for a cause you care about, or even finding some part-time passion work that you do just for fun, not for the money. Step 2 is all about that structure we talked about. And listen, this doesn't mean you have to create another rigid 9 to 5 schedule. Not at all. It can be as simple as a morning walk, reading for an hour in the afternoon, or having a weekly coffee with a friend. These little routines become your anchors, giving your days some stability and direction. And that leads us to the last two, and honestly, they might be the most crucial. Nurturing social connections is so vital. When you're not seeing colleagues every day, you have to be really intentional about building your community. And then, redefining your purpose. The key thing to remember here is that purpose doesn't have to come from a paycheck. It can come from personal growth, from contributing to something bigger than yourself, or just from finally tackling those personal goals you've had for years. All this brings us to a whole new way of thinking about freedom. Financial independence isn't just the finish line. It's actually the starting line for a new kind of responsibility, the responsibility to consciously build a life you truly love. I really want you to let this one sink in. If you take away just one thing today, let it be this. The whole FIRE movement is amazing. It's solving the money problems. But your life problems? That's a whole separate project, and it's every bit as important. So being truly ready for this next chapter really has two sides to it. Financial readiness, that means your numbers work, your spreadsheets are green. But psychological readiness, that means your life is in order. You have a plan not just for your money, but for your time, your identity, and your purpose. And that's really the final question I want to leave you with. As you're planning your financial future, please take the time to plan your personal future with just as much thought and care. Your finances might be ready for you to leave your job, but the real question is, are you ready for the life that comes after?